was at this hotel for almost 30 days, and 30 days is enough time for me to get attached to spaces. I don't know if there's a word for it, there must be. So I'm checking out of this hotel today and moving into a rented apartment. Welcome home, I guess. Though it's always tricky to know where home is. But yeah, for now, this apartment is where I'll have to make a little bit of home. I've actually just now checked in. As you can see on the TV, I was listening to a podcast. This is one more thing that I really enjoy besides walking around and recording the streets of wherever I am. I do kind of like this place, this house, though of course the hotel room and the hotel, as I was mentioning earlier, is something I'll be missing at least for a few days. But this place, I think, is good enough for me to make me comfortable and try to finally settle down into this new city. One thing that I especially enjoy are balconies, or balconies as the Americans would call them. And of course this place has a balcony, and a balcony with a nice view. When I was trying to finalize this apartment, I of course had to mention that I want a balcony, and I did a lot of research to make sure I'm trying to find the best possible location. One of the factors that I had in mind was also that it should be close to the train station here, which is the Union Station. And the reason for that is I would be using the Union Station to very frequently go to New York and record New York, almost as if I'm living as much in New York as I'm living here, which I guess would further confuse the concept of home in my mind. But yeah, I guess it is what it is. This is the locality in which the apartment is located, and this locality is called Penn Quarter or Pennsylvania Quarter. Of course, Pennsylvania is another American state. DC, though, is kind of in the middle. Of course, DC stands for District of Columbia, and being the capital city of this country, it's not really a state, nor is it a city. It's like something in the middle, which is actually honestly also a problem with Delhi, which again is not really a state of its own, neither is it like a total city of its own. It's somewhere in the middle. So I think that's a common pattern that many capital cities around the world tend to adapt. That's a pretty red building with a golden dome at the top. I think it's called the Fireman's Building or something like that. And right on the Pennsylvania Avenue on our right, there are lots of museums and buildings of importance right here in Washington, D.C. So thankfully, the area that I'll be walking around and living in is a nice and culturally important part of this city. Right now, the activity that I'm going to do would actually be a very personally important activity because I'm going to go and buy some grocery. I feel this video is actually very strange for me because usually I'm not really describing how I'm feeling or the things that I'm doing. Usually I'm talking about the city where I am. But I feel DC, because of my recent move, has that different kind of flavor for me. So yeah, I guess my DC videos would be more about how somebody adapts and adjusts when they have just moved to a very new and a very foreign city. This is an activity that I really hate, but I guess when you move to a new city and you decide to cook on your own, which is not really the norm back in India, I guess you have to go grocery shopping, and soon I'll have to lift everything that I've bought back to the house, which would actually be, I think, almost a 45-minute ride, and I'll be using public transport and lifting those heavy bags, so we'll see how it goes. I had to stop here because the grocery bags are too heavy and the train station is still, I think, more than a kilometer away. So yeah, this is me just taking a break and thinking about grocery back in India. It somehow feels so much easier there. I think also the fact that we've got all these online apps which are cheap and easy, it's just all fun. So you don't really have to suffer this very difficult grocery buying experience. But yeah, I guess I'll have to get going soon. This grocery needs to get home. I guess at least this would look good on video, I hope. Even though I'm suffering through the experience, I hope the video makes it worth it. Alright, we'll get going now. Almost get going. I think I've recorded enough. There's actually this very interesting park right next to the road. It's called the Fort Totten Park, and I actually was reading a little bit about this. This area, it had a big fort, some of which still exists, and that fort was called Fort Totten. There were actually many forts throughout Washington, D.C. because America in the mid-1850s fought the Civil War, and they had to protect Washington from the Confederate Army, which was the other side. That's why so many forts were built right here. Alright, from fort back to our grocery. I am very tired because I think I bought a little too much, but thankfully we are very close to the metro station now, and the metro station is also called Fort Totten Metro Station because, of course, that's the big significant thing here. That's not the train that I'll be on though. I think this looks more like a big freight train. But right next to it, I think, is the line of the metro train that I'll be taking back into Washington, D.C. This train has been unending. It's probably one of the longest freight trains I've ever seen. Wow, and it just ends. Looks like in 2009, on that exact date, there was a major metro train collision. It happened between this station and the one that's just next. So between Tacoma and Fort Dotton, and all these people lost their lives. So that accident was, I think, the most major accident that happened for the Washington Metro. But yeah, I guess I need to take the Washington Metro right now. This should be my train, and I need to get back to the house with the grocery that I've bought. Back in the Penn Quarter neighborhood, that's where the house that you saw in the beginning of this video is. I've been able to lift the grocery and walk around so far, and now it's probably less than a kilometer, so we should be fine. This big street on my left is the Pennsylvania Avenue. In fact, this is the street after which the neighborhood is named as well. And you'll see a lot of such big buildings as the one you see right there. This one's the Archives building, I think, something like that. You see it written there. All right, so it's been almost a success, but it's extremely difficult to describe in words how difficult the first grocery run has been for me. Because normally I think people here are used to taking their car to the grocery store and then getting the grocery back home. It's so much easier. But right now I'm actually carrying this very heavy grocery bag with milk and lots of vegetables and kitchen towels and whatnot. So it's a little crazy. Also, the perspective that you're getting right now, this is actually the shopping bag eye view because I've put the camera within the shopping bag because I figured that's probably the best way to walk and record when I've got grocery to carry. And yeah, I am pretty much home, or pretty much by the house, I should say. Not sure if I can call it home yet. And it's time for me to figure out how exactly I can cook and feed myself, because it's never really been something that I've been very good at. But we'll see how it goes. And we'll also see how good this shopping bag view appears on the screen. I'm just recording right now, so I have no idea what this is capturing. But hopefully an interesting perspective for my grocery shopping in Washington, D.C. This is a very famous nearby restaurant. I wish I could just go there and eat there every single time and not bother with the groceries. We are at the house now, and I just need to figure out how I can make this grocery work. I had been really dreading the grocery shopping experience, and I must say it has lived up to the dread. Because having to buy everything and sort of recall anything that I may have missed, and having to carry all of that back to the apartment right here, it was a very difficult task. And now I see that it's rainy. Talk about good timing. So I think less than an hour after I arrived at the house, it has started really pouring. And if this had started like 1.5 hours back, my grocery shopping would have gone for a toss. But I don't really mind rains, especially when I'm looking at it rain from my work desk and sipping on some hot chai or hot tea. I think this feels good. My very first day in this new house, and with the rain, I think it feels all right now. I know it would be odd for a lot of Westerners because in the US or in many Western countries, people tend to hate the rains. But back in India, whenever it rains, it makes everyone really happy.